because people are actually earning more money in work, people will be better off. But the real point is, just look at this. The record on actually getting money from a wealthier group is actually they paying more as a proportion of their income than any other group now. And that's since this government came to power. Remember, under Labour, they didn't introduce any upper rate bands until they actually were 1 month out from the election. They literally introduced the upper rate band in a panic at the last election. The fact is, it's higher now and has been higher over this Parliament for people on higher incomes than it's been all the way through the last Labour government. So the answer is we are now getting them to pay much more. They pay more in tax and they pay more in other charges. And the truth is they are lifting a bigger burden of that. And that's been, I think, fair. It's been about what's right.
And then the non-dom taxes now are on tip of people's tongues. Are you committed to cracking down on these?
Well, like we've always said from the word go, if you don't qualify for it's non-domicile would be the real point about it. This has been in place for over 100 years. Okay, this isn't something that was invented under this government. The last government kept it for all of the time they were in government. The difference is now we force people to pay the charges they're relevant to them in the UK. But the point about non-doms is also, remember, quite a lot of those characters bring a huge amount of investment into here. Tata Steel, for example, put lots of money into steel making here. We've got a lot of car makers who've come in here as a result of that. All I'm saying is that the Labour Party have done is come up with a crackpot idea, which it turns out, by the way, 60% of the non-doms would not be relevant. Okay, so in other words, they wouldn't be affected by their proposals. And even their own shadow chancellor said, you're more likely to lose money by doing this than you are to gain it. The truth is, when you tax people and when you bring tax changes, you want to be sure that you benefit people by doing it. So in other words, the UK benefits because it gets greater investment and that people don't lose out. And this is one of the balances. These things need to be thought through carefully. My point is, we want inward investment. Inward investment is critical. Why is the UK the single largest place in Europe for inward investment? It's because our tax structure means businesses invest in here, which is why we're beginning to see, we have actually the best back-to-work record of the whole of the rest of Europe. I think last year more young people went back to work than the whole of the European Union put together. It's a staggering thought. So if you look at all of that, what we're actually saying is the balance of taxation is that those on the lowest incomes pay less because we've raised the thresholds and lowered the taxation on them. Those in higher incomes now pay more than they ever paid at any stage under the last government.
Okay. And finally, I'll put a reader's question to you. This one comes from Dan Walker with some language tidied up. Basically, having been in charge of all the benefits cuts the last 5 years, which have been substantial, do you ever feel like you have blood on your hands?
No, why should I? Welfare reform is what we've done. Yeah. And what we've done by changing the way that we run welfare, I see no thing that's good about keeping people dependent on welfare. When I walked through the door, we had 1 in 5 households had nobody in work. We had 2.5 million children growing up in workless households. We had 2.5 million people sitting on sickness benefit. We know that if somebody was on sickness benefit for more than 2 years, they were more than likely to die than ever come off it. All of that had to be changed. Housing benefit had doubled in the last 10 years and was set to grow by another 6 billion. We've had to change that because you can't afford to spend all that money and then get nothing. People are not productive. They're sitting around being miserable on benefits. What I want to do is get people back to work. Those who can't, we spend more money on them. We didn't cut the disability benefits. We let them rise in line with inflation. So we protected the most vulnerable. What I have said is that this is about making sure you help those who need help and get the others back to work. And that's why we've seen more people go back to work. There are now more households in social housing in work than ever before since records began. And this is because we are reforming welfare. So my answer to the gentleman that made that question is, had we not done this, every taxpayer in Britain would have been paying substantial sums of money and we'd have had people's lives wrecked. Kids growing up in workless households, not ever going to work themselves when they grow up. That's not much of a future for them. So I'm proud of what we've done, proud of the fact we've reformed welfare. It isn't all complete yet, more to do, but welfare reform is critical. It's the reason why Britain is actually now performing better than it's ever done before.
And